So when I left North Dakota, I went back to Idaho. I was looking at work, like at jobs, and I didn't see anything that like caught my interest, where everything was paying like $10 an hour. And I was like, I'm not, man, I can't work for just $10 an hour, man. Like that. What the heck? I was like, maybe I should just go try and find a job somewhere in the oil field somewhere. But then I was like, I want to spend some time with my family. I want to hang out, and we're around home. And by this time I had a place in Idaho. I had an apartment in Idaho, like a mile from my wife's family. So like my daughter and my wife were able to walk around town. This big, beautiful, like, what's that show? Gilmore Girls, like, town. It was like a really nice town. I don't want to name it because I'm trying to keep it a secret, but it's a gem, But the area I'm in, they call it the Palouse. It's next to Spokane and Coeur d'Alene. Beautiful area. Hunting is top notch. Outdoors activities top notch. Real American vibe. I was like, maybe I'll go up to Spokane, work in something. Cannabis is legal in Washington. It's not in Idaho. So that's a whole industry that I was kind of like looking at because it's different from oil, right? And I was thinking, I'll go back to oil when the when the oil prices get right. Right now, it was like $30 a barrel when I left, or $27 a barrel. I forget. It was something small. It wasn't anything exciting. So I was like, I'll go back into oil when it's good. Right now, I'd rather do something else. I was looking at work in Spokane and Coeur d'Alene. I wasn't trying to get paid what they wanted to pay. I was like, no, I want to do better than that. I saw Seattle was starting out like $15 an hour. Talking to some homies in North Dakota, they were thinking about going to the Northwest, Seattle. They're all thinking the same thing. They're like, oh man, my mom lives in Washington and Seattle, and she said it's really good. So I looked into it, and he was right. I got pointed into that direction from my Air Force veteran. He was good to go. So after I did that, I went home. I spent like 2 months at home with the wife and kid. Lived off the money I saved up, what I had left off the oil fields, and then I loaded up my car and I went to Seattle. I left my wife and kid in Idaho with her family, and I went to Seattle. And where did I go first? I was in Bellevue. I forget. I think I was in Seattle. My first night, I went into Seattle, hung out, got a good recon of the city, like checking things out, checking out the city. And then I strolled to a temp agency that I learned about in North Dakota, right? And I went to a temp agency in Seattle, parked outside of it like 4 a.m, and I fell asleep in my car, crashed out. I woke up at like 6 a.m, 7 a.m. I went in and was hanging out with some of the guys standing around. I got a cup of coffee from these guys, and I was looking at the jobs that they were offering. And it didn't look like anything I wanted to do, to be honest. I was like, I don't think I'm gonna do that today. So I went in. I got back in my car. I went into the city. I went into Pike Place Market. I went to go check out Pike Place Market like early in the morning. I went to go take a piss. Might have fucking used their bathroom, and I walked around this place. Never been into the Pike Place Market in my life. But I did a quick little search on my phone because I've been through Seattle a couple times. I've been through Bellevue. I bought my car in Bellevue, the one I had with me at the time. And I've never been to this market, and it's very like popular. It's a Seattle thing. And I went and checked it out. I was like, this is badass. You know, I was like, this is badass. They're throwing the fish around, you know, there's tourists everywhere. I'm over there eating donut and drinking coffee, looking around, checking their history out, reading what they got on their walls. And I walked around that block and I was like, this is not really my vibe either. You know, like I don't want to work here. I don't want to do no work in there. I don't know what I'm doing. So I went and I had a laptop at the time. I had a laptop computer. I don't have one anymore, but I had a laptop, a MacBook at the time, and a backpack. And I went to the public library in downtown Seattle. And it was an amazing library. Its facilities, quality, but I was taken back by all the homeless people like hanging out inside it. You know, I was like, whoa. You know, I just came here to get like a free internet Wi-Fi, you know, and do like some research and some work around here and look. But damn, there's like everybody's around me's homeless. You know, I was like, what the heck? So I'm like walking around homeless people, like stepping over their bags and shit. And I'm like, what the heck? Okay, cool. I can't judge. I'm kind of homeless right now too. You know, I don't have a place here. So I was went and found me a little nice desk, you know, and this is Seattle downtown's library. This thing got badass architecture outside, everything around it. Wi-Fi super fast. You can upload all your YouTube videos if you wanted. I wasn't recording any videos at the time. I wish I would have recorded more videos, man. I'm just getting into this shit, so I'm learning. But I always had the idea like, oh man, someone else will record that shit. You know, they could do a better job than me. I'm not trying to do that. But I was in Seattle's library and I was like, damn, this is kind of ghetto. I don't mean it in a bad way, but I was like, damn, you know, I didn't expect this. You know, this is my first time in a public library, at least in Washington, in Seattle. And I wasn't prepared for that. I mean, I can handle it. I'm a grown dude. No one really gives me problems. You know, I don't have any problems with anybody. No one really harasses me. Some people try to power check me. They're usually like bigger dudes. They want to power check me. It's like, whatever, dude. I don't have time to fight you right now. Hurt my head or fucking my TBI, whatever. But yeah, I couldn't believe what I was seeing. But I went and I looked at some jobs online. I looked online and applied for some jobs on like Craigslist. This was like 2015? No, this was 2016. This was 2016. Yeah. And I was applying for jobs on, I want to say Craigslist. I deleted Facebook. I deleted my Facebook for some reason. I got off of Facebook, and that was the only social media I was using at the time. This was 2016. I drove into Seattle with my iPhone 5. I had an iPhone 5. Yeah, I believe it was an iPhone 5. And I was looking at jobs online. I got a job. I got work immediately. What was I doing? I work security. That's right. So that was my first job. I got hired on to work a security gig at a piano bar in Seattle. Small kind piano bar, badass. And they hired me on. I went in, They interviewed me on the spot, hired me that night. I worked a fucking bachelorette party. I worked a bachelorette party in downtown Seattle at a piano bar. That was fun. That was fucking fun. I had a good time. I don't know. I had a great time. Beautiful girls, Seattle girls, going wild. And like the clothes they had on and like the decorations they had on was ridiculous. I've never seen anything like this in my life. Literally. I was convinced I was in the right place. I was convinced I'm in the right place. So my wife texted me once and she's like, "Where are you?" And I was like, I'm working in a piano bar. And that was that. She's like, "Okay." Yeah, that was that. I worked the piano bar. I worked security. And then I ended up working in I worked security. That's when I realized I could do security. That's right. I realized that's what I'm gonna do. I could easily fall into this world. Like security's gonna get me in. Like that. I can make a life. I'm not trying to make a life in Seattle, but I can make this work, right? At least that's how I was thinking. So I'm gonna work security. So I get on my resume on my laptop the next day after I get hooked up with this piano bar, right? So I get hooked up I get hooked up into my laptop and work on my resume. I start revising my resume towards security. And I realized the oil field didn't really help me, but it kind of does as security. Like, okay, this guy's an oil fielder, maybe he can, be a good asset to the environment, for security reasons, because they like big tough guys for security. So I was like, okay, let me do the oil field or let me do the security resume, and I'll use the oil field experience as my last security stuff. Like I revised my resume based off of my old experience, and I added my oil field experience and revised my resume towards security. And then I started going around applying jobs, and I was getting work left and right, working as a bouncer, actually. I worked as a doorman. Yeah, most of my security days in Seattle were as a bouncer. So that's where I fell into. So I worked in a bar in North Dakota as kind of like security, but not. We didn't have security. We were all security in the bar. Like they hired like big guys as much as they could and keep them, but they were losing them to the oil field. I was a good example of that too. But they didn't have security, but they had a big guy running the bar, and he liked to hire big guys and have them assist him in security as part of the job description. So like he always had help. So like we had a bunch of Mexican homies in the back in the kitchen. They were run out with their knives if we have any problems. Like we had a bat behind the bar, no gun, but everyone had gun on them. But and then we had a bunch of beautiful ladies and some old aunties that would just melt your heart as soon as they smiled at you. It was a great vibe in North Dakota. So I used that as my experience, and I started working in bars as a bouncer in Seattle. So that's how that ended up. I went to I worked I worked so I got hired on to a security company eventually. And this guy was pretty high speed for a civilian. He was cool as fuck. But he was professional, and he hired me on, and he loved me. And his office was in Bellevue. So that's how I ended up in Bellevue. So I started working for the security company out of Bellevue, Washington. It's like right next to Seattle. Right? To me, they're kind of the same. It's just a bridge that fucking separates it. But I go to Bellevue, and I start staying in Bellevue. I work with the security agency out of Bellevue, Washington, right? So I'm talking to him. He specifically put his office in Bellevue to have the address on his business card or something like that, or part of his business. Like, he wanted that professionalism because Bellevue has a good reputation. It's a really wealthy area. And I ended up buying I bought my car in Bellevue a couple years, like 2 years back before this. But anyways, I started working in Bellevue, out of Bellevue in Washington, in the security company. And then he had a bunch of high speed dudes. He had Army Ranger, he had DEA, he had two Air Force CCT guys. He had a old deputy, like sheriff, and then he had some thugs. He had like two big thugs that were like just monsters, like Samoan and black guys. Like, they were just big monsters. And I ended up working as a bouncer with them in some bars around Seattle, so I was like, oh shit, I'm gonna work in a nice area in Bellevue, good to go. I ended up working in like some really popular high-end bars in Seattle. So our office is headquartered in Bellevue. They host trainings there, and the uniforms and all the paperwork is up there, and we do all that. But we work in Seattle, so like we're all around Seattle at all these bars, and we work together as teams. Like, they're always moving us around based on like our schedules and whatnot. And these guys are cool as fuck, man. They were high speed. I learned so much from them. Like, they're all veterans. Some of them were National Guard guys and getting after it. Young guys, fucking getting after it, motivated. And then some real like professionals, and like the company, this guy's company was he was trying to build something like a little Blackwater, but he was still years away from this. But he's saying the goal was to get federal contracts, and to get a federal contract, you need to get at least 5 years of experience, or you need to hold your business license for at least 5 years. Then you can start bidding for security contracts. So he had these guys, like some of us were doing like some real security jobs, like hanging out, protecting money moving, or protecting families, with custody problems, transferring their kids or whatnot. But he had a majority of us fucking, and he didn't want to call us bouncers. He called us doormen. And we were fucking bouncers, dude, like straight up. Like, we were dragging dudes out of bars, physically throwing them out the door. I pushed a few guys out the door myself, and it was kind of rowdy in some areas. Like, so we worked these big bars. I worked in this one big bar in Seattle. I think it's called Rhine House in Seattle, and it was cool. It was right on the college of Seattle University. These basketball players walk in like they own the place and shit. But it was full of everyone, right? Young, beautiful people, healthy people, good energy, alcohol, a lot of alcohol. They even had bocce in there, bocce ball, and a court in there to throw the ball, and they had a mezzanine. So they had 5 of us guys working this bar every night, and we had radios. We had a whole security team, and we were legit. Like, we had everybody, and whenever one of us had a problem, we were on it. Like, we were all supporting each other, because it's a dangerous fucking thing. It was a dangerous job. Like, sometimes guys wait outside after closing hours for us. You know, like we gotta go to our cars in groups, kind of shit. But yeah, we handled it. And I remember my last job, my last couple of nights there, man, we threw this guy out. He was a big guy. It took three of us. It took three of us to get him out. Four if you count the guy that helped throw his legs out of the way. Like, so the three of us removed him, but it took four of us as a team to like make it happen. And the guy that managed that bar was like, so like, he was gay, so he was like so impressed. He's like, that was like the hottest thing I ever seen. And I was like, dude, that shit cracked me up. So I went and I was smoking a joint in my car after my shift, right? And I'm just smoking right there in on the road outside the bar. Everyone went home, and this guy jumps in my car. I'm smoking, and he's the manager of the bar, and I'm smoking. He's like, "Oh man, you make so much sense now." And I'm like, "Oh shit!" And I'm smoking I'm hitting my joint. And I offer it to him. He hits my joint like twice, and then he gives it back. And he was out partying for the rest of the night with his friends, and he's like, "Hey, John, if you ever need anything, I'm here for you. Like, you're a good one, you know." And he wanted to vouch for me, and like if I ever need anything, he told me to hit him up. So he was like my first, like, I guess, friend in Seattle. And he was a gay black man. He was cool as fuck. And I never hit him up, but I was like, thank you, you know, like, appreciate it, but I got this. I'm gonna make this work. I made so many good friends out there in Seattle. Made the best friends. And so I loved the Ryan House. I loved the security company I worked for. I eventually I was wandering into these pot shops. I was in Washington, and I've never been around legal cannabis. I would go down to Colorado and check out their legal cannabis stuff, and I was always just buying it. I never thought I'd like be a part of it. So I was in Seattle, and I was checking out these pot shops. Then I was like, let me just drop my resume to these guys. You know, I started dropping my resume at the doors when I would go in. It's like, yeah, man, let me just drop my resume to you and check out what you got. You know, so I'd fucking give my resume to the security at the door, and I'd go in and buy something. And I did this to a couple of shops around the Northwest, and I got a couple job offers. A bunch of people want me to work for them, but it wasn't in Seattle. It was like on the outskirts of Seattle and kind of away from where I was like located at and settled in. And they wanted me to go out of Seattle, and I was already kind of like in Bellevue and in Seattle. I'm already there, and I got a good thing going, so I don't need anything. So I'm reaching out to see what's going on. A lot of them that offered me work didn't really. It would have been I wouldn't say a negative thing, but it would have taken me back. I don't know. I don't want to sound like a dick or anything like that. That's not how I'm trying to come off. But it wouldn't have upped my level. I was pretty good. But I was going in and out of Uncle Ike's in Seattle because they were like right next to me, and I was kind of living in the Central District area of Seattle. So it's the hood, right? Jimi Hendrix old neighborhood. It's right there. And then Seattle, Uncle Ike's, they're right there on 23rd and Union. This is like a notorious little corner of Seattle, and a lot of gang activity. You know, a lot of thugs. Poverty. And then Uncle Ike's was right there on the corner. They showed up, and they had a nice little setup. And I would stroll in there. They had good deals. That's what it was. I'd go in there and check out their deals, and I was happy with their deals. So I'd go in there and I would smoke. I would buy my smokes from them, or my edibles from them, and I'd shoot the shit with them. Their guards every morning. And I got to know the top the main guy that's running their security, because they had a whole security team at Uncle Ike's too. But I got to know the main guy, and he asked for my resume, right? He's like, hey man, let me get your resume, because they had a pretty weird issue keeping people at Uncle Ike's too. And I was like, yeah, fuck yeah, I got a resume. And I went and gave him a resume as soon as I had one available for him. Dropped one in. I never heard back from him, right? For like 2 weeks. But I would go in and out and buy my stuff, and I drop resumes everywhere I go. So I never had no problems finding work. It was me like deciding where I want to go and what I want to do. So I was with the security company. Then I get called from the security at Uncle Ike's, and he's like, hey bro, I want to hire you. Can you come and talk to me? Or can you come in and talk to me? I was like, hell yeah, I'll be over. So I went and talked to this guy. We smoke a joint. We're shooting the shit. He explains the situation he has, right? They got a team of guys guarding the doors. They got remote or electronic access to certain areas in this area. They got a whole operation. They got an office upstairs. Their cannabis flower shop dispensary is their main effort, pushing all their products. They have a glass shop selling paraphernalia on the other side. And this whole lot, the parking lot, was revised into like a little compound, and they're managing this compound. But it's a big parking lot, in and out. And you can, there's a lot of traffic going in and out. And it's in the corner of a busy city. And people walking around this motherfucker all the time. They got a problem with some kids snatching up bags out of customers' hands and running away. These products are labeled with their brand, right? Uncle Ike's is on a paper, on a bag. And they're putting the products in these Uncle Ike's bags and walking out with it. And these kids got smart, or got, I guess, wild, and they started snatching up bags out of the customers' hands and running away. We're in the middle of the fucking hood, though. I mean, this is what's going on. There's a lot of shit going on in this place. Anyway, so the guy hires me to do security, right? Or he's trying to hire me, and he's like, "You want to work? You want to work with me?" I was like, "Yeah, man, it sounds good. Like, what are we talking about, though? Like what?" And he's like, "I can give you this," and he was gonna give me more money. He was gonna give me Blue Cross Blue Shield benefits for my family. He's like, it was a nice package, and it was too good to give up. It was too good to pass up. And I tried to balance out my security company and Uncle Ike's, but it just wasn't working out. And I had to call my boss and tell him I need to like tone down my hours that I'm putting in with him and his company. And he didn't like that. He wanted loyalty, and I understand that. But I couldn't pass up a good thing for my family. That's the thing. Like, if I was a young guy, I probably would have stayed with Jake. But he didn't offer me like he didn't offer me any benefits. I mean, he didn't give me money. He didn't give me a full 40 hours. He's trying to avoid paying overtime. Uncle Ike's was giving me at least 40 hours and Blue Cross Blue Shield for me and my family. Life insurance, 401k, all that shit. They were giving it. And I told him I got to do what's best for my family, man. And I had to walk away, I felt bad. And then he even called me back. So like, he wanted me. I left like a week, and I even worked my friend's shift. So like, what happened was, I was like, okay, I told a guy at Uncle Ike's in Seattle, I was like, yo, I need to give my company at least 2 weeks notice, right? I need to work some shifts for some people before I can bounce. Some of these guys I work with are quality. I can't just burn them. So I did have to walk away from my company though, my boss, and I felt bad for that. And you don't have to feel bad about leaving anyone when it benefits your family. You got to do what's best for you. But so I tell Uncle Ike's, I'm like, yo, I gotta finish up some shifts for these guys, and then I can be over, right? So the guy calls me up the next day. He's like, man, I know it's the American thing to do to give 2 weeks notice, but I need you today. And I was like, I can work for you today. I can work today. I can work today. I'm free today right now. I can work for you. But I have to work these 2 shifts for somebody. They're not my shifts. I'm working them for somebody. He asked me to work them for him. And I already committed to it. And then I'll be here Friday night. And man, I did that, and he was happy with that. Uncle Ike's was happy to take me on. They were ready to take me. They needed me. They were so short on quality guys. So Jake, though, I had to walk away from Jake, and I felt kind of bad about that. But yeah, that's what happened. I left something group international for Uncle Ike's in Seattle, downtown Seattle, their very first location. So I was there working the door at a cannabis dispensary in downtown Seattle, 23rd and Union, and that was so fun. That was such a great time. I got a bunch of videos on that coming, I promise. So when I left Bellevue, I went and just stayed in Seattle for work. I was there and work, doing my thing at Uncle Ike's. And then Jake called me back. I went to go return my uniform and get my last check and all that. And he's like, man, I need you for Comic-Con. Something, some kind of event, some kind of con. He's like, I need you for something. Man, I felt so bad because he got me on the spot. Some guys were in the office, shooting the shit, training. And I was like, dude. And he's like, man, we all love working with you. Come on, and I was like, I can't commit to that. I'm trying to get into Uncle Ike's right now. And they respected my opinion. They showed respect and love, and I have nothing but love and respect for them as well. And I'm still friends with some of those guys that I worked with in that company. They're some badasses in that company, man. I was really happy with them. And this was in Seattle. I didn't know what Seattle was about before I got there. I didn't realize it was like a really blue, democratic, hardcore city. So I started to see it when I worked in the cannabis dispensary in the industry with all these potheads, and all these hippies. And I was like, wow, this is really a blue state. It's different than what I'm used to, right? So I was in what's that? I was in Seattle at Uncle Ike's. I worked a full shift. And then I had what I have? Oh, I worked from 4 to midnight every night. We shut it down at midnight and close up shop, right? So those were my hours. So I was working nights. And then I realized I can work a second job since my family's still in Idaho. And like I said, I worked 2 jobs. I worked at Uncle Ike's job, and then I ended up getting another job in Bellevue at a furniture store out of Bellevue. So I worked 2 jobs, right? I worked these 2 jobs in Seattle, and I still only made half of what I was making in the oil field in North Dakota. They give you some perspective there, right? So I work in this. I go into Bellevue, and I get hired on kind of like a part-time thing, and it worked out perfectly for Uncle Ike's. So I get into this furniture store out of Bellevue. It's called Del T Furniture in Bellevue, Washington. They started off in Seattle. Family-owned business. Beautiful ladies running the sales floor. like 4 or 5 of them, beautiful Seattleite Bellevue women, wealthy women. And then Polly, she owned the company. And then there was a homie, he was ex-con too, down in the basement, running the furniture, building the furniture. And then they needed someone to deliver furniture. So I went in, they felt me out, they offered me the job. And it was the guy building the furniture, and it was a really good vibe, energy, small business, and they were legit, no problems with the pay, everything was squared away. The guy I worked with, he was a half Filipino, half Chinese, older guy, like 50s, 60s already, older than me, more experience. He reminded me of my dad a little bit. Like, he just kind of reminded me of my dad for some reason. I enjoyed this guy's energy so much. And he was from Seattle. He grew up here. And he lived downtown in, I think he lived in Belltown. I think that's the name of where he lived. Belltown. Pretty hood area. Told me like he had 3 cars stolen from him over the years, and they're all like badass classic cars. He's the one that showed me the car scene in the Pacific Northwest. Showed me where all the car shows and how it goes and everything. I was really grateful for him. Actually, he showed me Seattle. I ended up being like another hand. So I'm working Uncle Ike security at night, 4 to midnight. But I ended up getting this job at Del Teat, and I worked from 7:30 to 3:30. So I got to leave work at 3:30 and get to be at work at 4. So I'm going over the bridge from Bellevue into Seattle, 30 minutes, making it to work. I had no problems. Besides traffic, and then I just let my team know I'm a little late because of traffic, but they understand my situation because we're pretty cool. We're tight. So I'm in this, I'm downstairs with these 2 guys, the Ronaldo and I forget the other guy. Damn, Adam. I think it's Adam. And we're downstairs and we're talking, sharing coffee every morning. Going, they had a nice Keurig at the time. It was pretty high speed and modern. And I was drinking coffees with these guys, and we get to go upstairs and get, take a dump real quick, drink our coffee, or make some coffee in the kitchen. They even have a lunch area. But we go downstairs, me and the other guys, we're usually downstairs. Like, we hang out downstairs, and we have a little workshop with tools on one side where we can build the furniture or repair it. But they also had a network of other furniture repair stores around the city that we would frequent. We would take furniture to and drop around the city, right? So as I said, Ronaldo showed me around Seattle. We would drive around in this nice little furniture delivery truck. It was a nice little truck. Small kind, it can fit into some small roads, but it had a box in the back that fit furniture. And we were in Bellevue, Washington. So these are rich people. They're selling furniture to wealthy people. Like Bill Gates' neighbors are buying furniture from these people. So I'm going all over the Pacific Northwest delivering furniture with Ronaldo. And I'm just driving around. I'm not even driving. I'm a passenger. And he's like, yo, pull up this address on your GPS. And I'm just fucking showing him where we're going, and he's driving, and he's from around here. So as we drive, he's showing me all around Seattle and showing me what things are and where things are and how things go. And he was like my insight into Seattle. He was my real friend. And he was a real friend, and he's what I think of when I think of Seattle. Because he was so knowledgeable on everything. He showed me so much and taught me so much about the Pacific Northwest. And he came from a pretty wealthy family. He said he was half Chinese. His family, his mom, started like 2 or 3 dry cleaning businesses and sold them. So they're grinding. They're making money. He even had seasonal tickets to the Seahawks. He was always talking about Seattle Seahawks and always at their games and all that shit. And what's that? Even Adam downstairs, he was a huge Seattle football fan. They're all huge, always talking about football. I asked them, "Do you play? You guys play football?" And they don't play it, but they're huge fans of it. And I was like, man, I always wanted to play it. You know, I learn how to hit and tackle. And I always try to learn something from people. And I like to do jiu-jitsu and MMA and stuff. So I like to see how people do things, you know, the technique it does for them to do stuff like that. Anyway, yeah, so I'm in Seattle. I even started training actually in Ivan Salivary MMA in Seattle. Because Uncle Ike's, I worked at Uncle Ike's, and we worked with the security batch of guys, guys that were cool, you know, they're down to earth guys, but they're still kind of squarish. They're not trying to get involved in the bad stuff. Some of them are involved with some bad stuff, but that's life, you know. The majority of the guys are not doing it dirty. They're just enjoying, you know, doing what's good for them. But anyway, I worked with some MMA fighter. Couple MMA fighters, but one of them was on the security team, and he's like, dude, come over and just train with me. And I wasn't trying to like pay or commit to any contracts or anything, because I'm always like busy doing other shit. And we worked 4 to midnight, so I couldn't even do that if I wanted to. But he was already like an established fighter, and he was already good in the gym, so he invited me in, and I get to go train at Ivan Salivary for open mats, and whenever he showed up and invited me, I can go. So I trained at the UFC gym in Seattle with him. I trained at Ivan Salivary, and we even trained like out in parks and backyard and shit. And he was legit. He got a bunch of fights under his belt, and he was solid. He was a Marine too. He was a Fallujah Marine. That's right. He went into Fallujah. He was 0311. One of the best guys I know too. Colombian. But yeah, that was my situation with Del T Furniture and Uncle Ike's. We'll go over some more Uncle Ike's stuff a little later. I'll go over some the Marine Corps stuff, and if you guys have any questions on anything that I've said, put it down in the comments, and I'm reading them. I'll try to respond, and I'll be responding in video. All right, have a good one. Thank you.